All right, hello everybody. Happy Thursday, July. Hopefully you're not melting wherever you are. It's super hot here in Nashville. I think it's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And if it was Celsius, I don't think we'd be alive over 100. So Carmen and I from Sojourn are going to be your presenters for today. It looks like I messed up my slide. That's wonderful. So I'm your host, as I am every month for our virtual Eloqua user group meeting for the last couple of years. And I'm based in Tennessee. I'm from upstate New York, which is where the photo on the right was taken. Recently took in a kitten who was sick from a feral community, a bunch of cats that just live outside near us in the country here in Tennessee. And this is her. So I thought I'd show a cute little kitten picture. We're probably keeping her. So we're gonna have 4 cats. That's great. But my background with Eloqua, I've been using the platform one way or another as a marketer initially, and then as a consultant, and now to help promote this user group and to help people, where needed on the consulting side. So it's been 17 years long time, most of my career, and it's near and dear to my heart, even when it makes me want to bang my head up against the wall. So if you ever felt that way with Eloqua, you're not alone. It does happen with any platform. Or maybe relationship, perhaps. So here's our agenda today. So I'll quickly go through, like I do every month, some relevant reminders to help. My whole focus on that is keep you guys in the Eloqua know, like what do I need to know, the quick skinny of things going on in the Eloqua world, like if there's an event or a release coming out or a major bug in the system that everybody needs to know about, which thankfully is rare these days, like that everybody would be impacted by. So that's the relevant reminders. And then Carmen, she's going to go through a pretty cool report tip that hopefully you guys can leverage on using action links. She'll explain what it's for, why to use it. And then I'll present our second big topic of the day, which is what's the difference between multi and omni-channel marketing? And then specifically with Eloqua, tie it back to how does Eloqua play with multi and omni-channel marketing? It doesn't do both awesomely, but there are definitely some tips to consider to get there. And like I've always honest with you guys, I'll share where it does hit a wall. So like, okay, Eloqua can't do X. That means we might need another technology potentially. And then we'll have time for Q&A, or if anybody wants me to unmute you and ask your question, if it needs that, or if you want to share a tip, share your screen, whatever it is, just let us know. And if you have questions throughout this time we're together today, please enter them in the Q&A. That'd be much appreciated. You'll get the recording. If you have to jump out early, no worries. I'm going to send you guys the recording of the meeting probably later today. We use Eloqua for that. And you'll see there's the Stranger Things, the Netflix show theme, because I love that show and I think a lot of other people might, but also July doesn't have a special theme globally. There's no ethnicity awareness that I could find anyway when I Googled multiple different ways. But what I did think of, there's so much going on in the world. I think we all know, and you feel it, probably some days more than others, and depending on where you live. Like there was an Eloqua user who reached out to me after last month that's in India, and like everybody has their challenges, whether it's war. We have sojourners that were in Ukraine when things happened there with Russia. Climate change, I think almost everybody in the world is feeling some impact of climate change. Inflation, rights, issues about rights, whether it's like in America with abortion, we're not the only country dealing with that as well. Shootings, there's a whole bunch of tough stuff going on. And as human beings, we are psychologically in our brains wired to focus on the negative. It's not something that you choose to do. It's the way your brain actually, the chemistry works. And one of the things I have found, and not just me, a lot of other people have, is to try to come back to being kind where you can. And I thought this was a cool quote by the Dalai Lama, who, if you don't know, is one of the people that's not worshipped, but highly respected in the Buddhist society, people who practice Buddhism. And he just says that my religion is very simple. My religion is kindness. And I thought that was beautiful. And it's what a lot of religions and spiritualities ultimately, I think, come down to is kindness, hopefully. I mean, some maybe not, but and just want to encourage you all, this month we're not celebrating, LGBTQ awareness or Asian Americans or whatever it is. There's a month for almost every ethnicity out there, and I try to hone in on those when it's, it is that month for that ethnicity or for autism, things like that. But anyway, just a friendly reminder to try to be kind. Everybody's going through something. Sometimes it's much more difficult than other things going on, but just to remember that and try to have some empathy and kindness. Okay, relevant reminders. So first things first, Eloqua has a new release coming out in August, if you didn't know already. The product team at Oracle did have a webinar about that last week. So they are going to present next month in our Eloqua user group meeting, which will be on August 18th. So Tamina from the Oracle product team, specifically, she focuses on Eloqua, I think, among other things, but she'll present the highlights of this new release, which for some of you, actually, by those dates, actually nobody will have had the new release features in your Eloqua yet, but in the fixes that come with the new release. But take a look at the schedule, take a look if you can at the highlights. There's some cool stuff coming. And if you didn't know, Eloqua has new releases every quarter of the year, the calendar year. And you can't like say, I do want the new release or I do not want it. I've had people ask that, like, can we opt out of getting those new things in our Eloqua? You can't. That's the way that software as a service typically works, is it automatically happens when Oracle or Salesforce or Adobe or whoever provides that software to you, or that service. So but take a peek at that. And then Oracle's big global event is back. It's this fall in Las Vegas in October. You can see the dates there. I did find out for 100% certainty, it will not have a remote attendee option, only in person. So if you do want to go check it out, it's likely to be a good event. It's a bigger event. It's Oracle Cloud World, which means not just marketing, sales, service, etc. But there will be a separate location in sessions for marketing specifically, and Eloqua breakouts specifically. So I think there will be good content. Absolutely. I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be getting married. But I encourage people to take a look at it. And if it's in your budget and your plans, then it probably is a great event to go to. Eloqua Tips Tuesday, Carmen's going to hit on that later, so I'm going to skip past that. Eloqua Insider Group is just a general Eloqua users collaborate online. It's a community of Eloqua users. Highly encourage you guys to sign up there and get the updates, so you know before I even mention these things to you, you would already have gotten a notification about the 22 release coming out, so you can stay in the know by just subscribing to things. Eloqua free training, just to reiterate here, because people have asked me over the years, where can I get free Eloqua training? Where can I send my boss to who just needs a quick, like 2-minute video about what Eloqua is or does or can do? And the Help Center has some of that, which typically links to the Eloqua YouTube channel. It's actually the Oracle Marketing YouTube channel with a playlist, I believe it's called, for Eloqua videos. But they're good. Some of them are short and sweet, like 2 minutes. Some are like 10 or 12 minutes. If you're looking for something a little bit more, the Eloqua Explorer 1 hour, roughly speaking, course is available for free through Oracle University. And it touches on some of the like 101 level fundamentals of Eloqua. And just a couple more things. If you ever miss an Eloqua user group meeting, or you want to look back at a meeting from the past, it's on our website in our resource center. There's the link to it. We always record these and keep the history on the Sojourn website. And the last piece is, if you want to stay in the know just on marketing strategies, marketing technologies that are out there, MOPS topics, marketing operations topics, ClickZ is a good source that I followed for years. They have a daily newsletter. You can choose to get it weekly if you don't want it daily, but they do a nice job of basically aggregating that content and helping you stay in the know as a marketer. And once in a while, Oracle's in it, not very often, but every now and then. So I found it a great way to keep my pulse on what are the new shiny objects that are coming out, which ones are people having success with, not just technology though, like strategies. So they have some pretty cool, and it's B2B and B2C. It's not just one or the other. So with that, I'd love to introduce you guys. She's been here before, but Carmen Gardiner on our Sojourn consulting team. She's one of our leaders on our consulting team, and based out of North Carolina. She's going to walk you guys through her topic here. You guys can read the slides. I'm not going to read it for you, but she's a long-time Eloqua user. I've learned stuff from her over the years. We've worked together, gosh, in North Carolina when you were at a company called School Dude that bought Eloqua. So she's a long-time expert that you all can probably learn a lot from beyond even just this call today. So with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Carmen.
Thank you, KP.
Welcome.
You did my first Smart Start at School Dude back in the day, who I think is owned by Intel now. So
yep, that sounds right.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'm Carmen Gardiner, as KP said, delivery director here at Sojourn, and I've been using Eloqua a long time, about 17 years, and the favorite part of my day is when someone shows me something that I don't know. You can be in this application a long time and you still don't know everything, so that's always a pleasure, and there's always more to learn. So I'm going to talk to you today about something that I recently learned, which was using action links for custom URLs. Excuse me. So this tip was inspired by the Tip Tuesday on Topliners, which is a new category in Topliners. Jody Mooney runs it every Tuesday. They post a tip, and there are some really good ones there. I think they started it a couple months ago. So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and visit it, subscribe to it. There's some really good stuff out there. And there's also the ability for you to submit a tip. If you have a tip that you think people would like to learn about, you can submit that to them there as well. Get yourself published on Topliners. So action links. This is one of the Tip Tuesday tips, but we're going to get into it a little bit more today. Action links are those links that you see in Insight where you can kind of drill down into other reports. So that's where we're used to seeing them, being able to navigate to customer standard reports within Insight. There's another way you can use them, and that's to navigate to a web page, either a static web page, or you can use the data within your Insight report to personalize that web page. We use it most often here at Sojourn for embedding profiler links into reports. So let's say you've created a report that you send to sales or your marketing team or your executive team, and they see a contact in that report and they'd like to dig down into it and see a little bit more about what that person has done, maybe more contact information. You can embed a link to their profiler page into that report so they don't have to go hunting for it. That is our most common use case, and that's the one that we're going to look at today. So it's pretty easy to do. The first step in creating an action link within Insight is to build your URL. Think about what's the URL look like. And for Profiler, it's pretty simple. There are a lot of different ways you can get to Profiler depending on whether your organization uses SSO or active sessions. There's a link here in this presentation. You can go to a page and it shows you all of the different kinds of links that organizations use to get to their Profiler pages. But for this use case, we're just going to use a direct link to Profiler. And Profiler can be personalized using either the Eloqua contact ID in a query string or the email address in a query string. So for this use case, we're going to build an action link using the email address in the query string to personalize the Profiler page. And with that, I'm going to pop out of here and copy this URL so that I can build my link. So what I've done here in Insight is just create a simple report, web visitors for today. And when I run this report, when I click on the email address, I want Profiler to open to give me more information. To do that, I click on the cog and go to column properties and interaction. So you'll notice when you get here, there are two areas. There's column heading and value. If you put an action link in the column heading, that's typically good for static links. When you click on the heading of email address, it'll go to your link. But if you want to personalize it, you need to go down to value, because it's going to use the value in the personalization, and go to action links. So I'll click plus to add one. When we click on the link, we want it to say view and profiler so the person knows what's happening. And to create a new link, we're going to click on the Running Man plus sign and navigate to a web page. We'll paste the link in here with the beginning of the query string there and click on define parameters. You'll notice that second I click on that, Eloqua puts a token at the end of my URL. It creates a token and the name is one. You can name it whatever you want, but you'll notice whatever the name of the token is, it's preceded by an @ sign and it's inside curly brackets. So at curly bracket 1 is looking at this prompt. It's for email address. And you can either put a static value in there if you're going to static URL, or you can fill it with a column value, which means the value in the report. And just make sure that the value that you want to customize this with is in your report, and you can choose it from here. So we're going to fill that URL with the email address. Now we want to unclick optional. If you click optional, it's going to, every time you click on that link, it's going to pop up and ask if you're sure if that's the email address. We don't want that. We're going to click fixed and hidden so that no one can edit the email address. There's no pop-ups coming up. It's just going to go straight to profiler. And the last thing you need to do is go down to options, and we're going to check open in a new window, because the last thing you want to do is navigate away from your report. You want to open it up in a new window and then just be able to look at it. And that's it. We'll go ahead and set that, close out, we'll save. And hopefully this runs quickly. Yes. All right. So here are the web visitors for Sojourn today. They're all internal people. Here's my record, Carmen. You'll notice my email address is a link. If I click it, it'll say view and profiler. And when I open it up, you'll see the link up here, but it resolves to a more friendly URL. And here's all of my activity. Some web page visits, email sends. You can get a little bit more information about the individual. So it does work on an individual basis. So that's our most common use case. One caveat about this is the tokens that you create in action links only work within query string parameters like this. You can't put a token embedded in a URL. Unfortunately, it's not supported. So it can only control the results of a personalized URL with query string parameters. It kind of limits the different things you can do with action links, the places you can go, but a couple of other use cases that we've used are, you can put a Google link on the company record. You can, and the address, you can click and link to a Google map in case your sales team needs to know like what area of the country it's in, if it's in their territory. It used to be you can use these action links as Salesforce to link to Salesforce leads, contacts, accounts, opportunities in Classic, because in Salesforce Classic, for those Salesforce users, the URLs were controlled by query strings. But in Salesforce Lightning, the IDs are embedded in the URL, and that's not supported. But if you want to be able to have a salesperson click on a contact ID in your report and it takes them to Salesforce, to that record, there is a way to do that by creating a report in Salesforce and then using the query string parameter to control the report. I am not going to leave you there. I'm going to show you those things. So I have a Google link here on Sojourn for the company. So Google search is pretty straightforward. Oh, that's what Sojourn is. Great. I have a map link here on the address. So let's say Fort Worth, Texas. Justin, is he near me? Here's a map. It's right there.
There he is. He's bald.
Shh.
Just kidding.
He,
He's not.
he didn't hear you say that. And then open in Salesforce here, it's on the contact ID because the contact ID is controlling the report. Let's see what happens. Here we are. So it's a bit of a workaround, but it'll take you to a report where you could see the individual and dig down to their account, contact, lead, opportunity. And you'll notice the pattern here is you create a report right here. You've got the URL of the report. And this FV0, Foxtrot Victor 0, means let me set the first filter in the report. So when I created the report, I created a contact and account report. These two top filters are standard in the report. It comes with the report. You can't remove it. They're just there. But the first custom filter I created was contact ID equals blank. So it's a blank report, but you can set that value. It's the first filter with FV0 is the first filter. FV1 is the second filter. I don't know, it doesn't make sense, but that's just the way it is. So if you have a Salesforce report, you can set the filter values if you leave them blank in order to take the person to a Salesforce report, which I think is really cool. There are a lot of use cases for that. And I think that's all I've got. So I appreciate your attention. Let me know if you have any questions on how to do this.
This is slick. Thank you, Carmen. So guys, this is, specifically using Salesforce. There could be some similar functionality with other CRMs, but we know majority of people still today use Salesforce CRM. Not everybody though. So probably on this call, I've just said that now half of you probably don't, but this is, I think about like, if I want to have an Eloqua report sent to a director or VP or CMO or a salesperson, they can click through it to get right into the CRM to the right place. And that's handy, whether it's to the record, like that report view that Carmen showed in Salesforce, or Eloqua Profiler, which is that graphical view of what Eloqua is tracking for the person. It's been a challenge for years to figure out how do you get to that from an Eloqua Insight report. And this is the not hack, it's just out of the box functionality that you can do that Carmen's shown today. So
I like hack.
Yeah.
But anything to make it more user-friendly to your end users, especially sales, to help with adoption is going to help everybody.
Absolutely. Save time. Otherwise, they would have to potentially copy that email address from that report, go into the CRM, paste it, look for the person. It might not be that easy. It takes more time. And then obviously the more time and effort something takes as human beings, the less likely we are to actually do it or finish doing it without getting distracted. So these are pretty cool action links that hopefully people do action on and come in handy for you.
Well, it's in your toolbox, so you could take it out if you need it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Carmen. I appreciate you taking the time to walk us through that. And now I'm going to share my screen again and walk you guys through our second topic. If you have any questions for Carmen, please pop them into the Q&A. Nothing came through quite yet. And next topic, like I mentioned, multi-channel versus omni-channel marketing, and what are the differences, and then tying it back to Eloqua. How does that impact me as an Eloqua user, Eloquan, as people call you, in case you didn't know. So multi-channel versus omni-channel. First of all, what the heck, let's just start. What is a channel? So in simplicity purposes here, it's a method of communication. It's how we communicate with someone. You might communicate with an email, with a text message, with an in-app notification, with a push notification, with a social post, sharing of content, an ad. You can see it right there. In person is also a channel. You're directly communicating. So when we think of multi-channel marketing, it's channel focused. It can be inconsistent customer experience because it's separated. The channels and devices aren't necessarily coordinated. That's more omni-channel. I'm going to get to that in a second. Typically with multi-channel marketing is choosing that email is the best place to communicate with KP, and that text message is the best place to communicate with this set of customers. You're not letting them choose. And typically, this is a big part of it that makes multi-channel different from omni-channel. Typically with multi-channel marketing, you could be doing a couple of these channels, but they're not coordinated. It's not like, you just send somebody an email, they click through the email, they went to the preference center and they actually said, I prefer to get these types of communications like renewal notices via text message, or just include a text message to me. I'm more likely to, respond. It's not that coordinated. You might have that option on your preference center, but then you send them another email and don't send them a text message. And sometimes the branding looks different. The actual experience for the visitor, the customer, it looks different. It might not have the same current logo. The rendering might be awesome. You really optimized your emails. They look great. They render well across different devices, but your website might not, your blog post might not. It might look great when somebody's on their desktop, but then when they try to read that blog post on their mobile device, it's horrendous. So in essence, it can create a confusing and impersonal experience. And then you end up with somebody like this, which isn't good. So omni-channel. And I'll tell you guys, I didn't know the difference between the two until a few years ago when I researched it. And omni-channel, I thought they were the same, and I thought omni was just a fancier word than multi. But they are different. Omni-channel is truly meant to be more customer focused. I should start with omni-channel is harder, and few people are doing it. Omni-channel, what it does is it creates a consistent, personalized customer experience, no matter what device or channel that they're getting your communication, no matter what kind of device they're using. And they choose where they want you to communicate with them and where they do not. They might not want any text messages, and you honor that. B2B world, B2C world, same thing, doesn't matter. And then the whole point of it is it creates a more personalized experience for the customer, the student. I'm kind of using the word customer. I know some of you might have students, you might have subscribers, so I'm just kind of bucketing them all into the customer bucket. So hopefully, they look like Brad Pitt and they're happy, like they dance. I don't know. That's the best gift I could get there. But at the end of the day, most people, if they're lucky, most marketing teams are doing multi-channel. There's a minority that are doing omni-channel because, like I said, it's difficult. It's not one technology. Eloqua, depending on what channels you're doing, for the most part, Eloqua cannot execute omni-channel marketing across all of the channels I have listed there. For instance, Eloqua itself natively does not send out direct mail. There's an app that can be added on to do it, but Eloqua is not going to optimize the look and feel of the postcard, right? That's your direct mail vendor that's going to do that. So my recommendation, just in general, with multi-channel to omni-channel, there's a couple of different things. Start small, try to have some things accomplished, like I call them quick wins, before you're thinking like, we're going to be omni-channel by the end of 2023. That sounds great, but it's usually not accomplishable in like a year. So what's something you could start small with? So when I talk to people who maybe aren't even using Eloqua yet, or they've just started, or they're in their first couple of years and they feel like they're just not getting what they need from it, we try to think of, well, are you using the website visitor tracking code? Are you tracking people on your websites if you have multiple? Hopefully you're doing that so you can see where their digital body language is, at least on your website. In your emails, are you sending emails out of Eloqua and tracking them? Most people are. Some people uncheck the option to track their emails, and then they didn't realize that, and they're not tracking people clicking through, opening, unsubscribing, things like that. So the minimum, ideally tracking website visitors, email communications. The tracking itself starts to give you some intelligence to figure out where to optimize and where people want to hear from you and where they don't. And then this kind of seems probably common sense, but you have to have strategy behind this, right? Like you need to know your audience, your targets. Where do they want to be communicated with? We can't say, well, all of our customers love email. Well, maybe certain ages do, but what we're finding is as teenagers and people in their 20s, in those generations, oftentimes mobile is the better way to go. Again, B2B, B2C, irrespective for the most part. So knowing your different sets of your target audiences, your personas, that helps you to know where to best communicate with them. And sometimes you have to survey them to find out. Sometimes you can do research to find out, like, this demographic, this age group, this ethnicity, they tend to communicate, receive communications better in this format. Sometimes you can't research that. You need to actually survey your own customer base. The best way to do it is to ask people, have a good subscription center or preference center, preferably, so they can tell you where they prefer to be communicated with. And having a MarTech platform like Eloqua shows you what devices they're using. Like, are they typically using an iPhone? Are they typically using a Windows desktop from 1990? If most of your target audience is on older devices, well, then you're probably going to spend your time making your channels optimized for the older Microsoft Outlooks, perhaps. So that's a key part of it. And social is obviously not for every audience. There's a company I worked for where social was not where those guys were. Our target audience was predominantly males, and in the space that they were in, engineering, that type of engineering world they were in, they had their own communities. They had open source communities for network security engineers. These guys weren't on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter for the most part. And if they were, they didn't want to hear from us at the company I worked for on that channel. So we tried it and figured out that pretty quickly and got some very honest feedback from them. Like, go to our online community where we are a bunch of us, like literally hundreds of thousands of them, and do only a certain number of things, the only certain types of communications there. So we tailored and we saw the results. It definitely improved. This is obvious too, I think, but just a reminder, the data, right? If you don't have the data to do personalization, start with the data first before you get fancy and try to do, for instance, in Eloqua, dynamic content or dynamic signatures. You have to have the data to do both of those things accurately. There's nothing worse than, unfortunately, I've seen customers do dynamic content and it gets to a recipient and the content is wrong. It's actually completely wrong. And they don't even hear about it from that prospect or customer, which is the worst case scenario. It's almost better to have them get back to you and say, hey, my first name is not Sally, my name is Don. And also, I work for a university. I don't work for a telecommunications company. I'm not sure what's happening in your email you just sent to me, but you're way off. So at least you know about it, hopefully, unless somebody finds it after the fact. But having your data connected, like if that data you need to drive Eloqua's dynamic content, to change out the imagery or the copy in an email or a landing page in Eloqua, if that data needs to come from a back-end system, like a order system or your CRM system, got to get it into Eloqua first. If you do it via uploads, maybe a Band-Aid, but it will start to become static. So, there's just, this is where it's crawl, walk, run, fly, and making sure that you have some of these things in place before you start to go to omni-channel or even multi-channel. Because as we know, like it says there, if we don't have good data, we can do things, we can try it and kind of be like, well, most of the data's there, it kind of isn't good. Nobody has great data. Nobody has all of the data that they want, but you do have data that you can improve, like with a contact washing machine in Eloqua, and improve your personalization, improve your scoring accuracy, improve ultimately your marketing performance and results. That's, I think, what we're all trying to do, is just get the best results that we can. Sometimes that leads to revenue. Sometimes it leads to improved customer satisfaction, student satisfaction, etc. The last thing is, there's a couple of things here I want to hit on. You want to define and maintain what your user processes are for your different marketing technologies, not just Eloqua. because if they don't know this is the way that we build campaigns in Eloqua and they do it a different way and it doesn't go well, well, if we didn't train them or document for them how to do it, it's hard to hold somebody accountable. And unfortunately, that campaign might have negative results. But also on the human element of this, if you don't train people and have processes to train them on and give them documentation so they can basically learn that information in different formats, you're less likely to have Eloqua users enjoy using Eloqua or whatever other technology you're using. If you're using Octopus for social, if you're using Google Analytics. So I feel like some of this stuff again is like, well, duh, KP, but just kind of hitting on the fundamentals. Like you can't slam dunk a basketball if you don't know how to dribble it. Or if you do it, you're going to get called for not dribbling, and then that basketball that you just slam dunk won't count. So anyway, so I recommend that you have documentation of your processes. And again, I know this is like, well, that sounds great, KP, but I already don't have enough time in the day to like go tinkle during my workday. Better yet, go make a document that will take me possibly weeks to do. I say that's not an excuse. You got to find time for it. You got to ask for time for it from whoever you need to at your organization. And hopefully they say yes, because if you leave and it's in your brain, I mean, it sucks for them, not for you maybe, but it's just one of those things to be like thinking of the greater good as well, that this hopefully will help make your life easier. If your company hires more people, you don't have to sit with them as long as you'd have to sit with them longer to train them and help hold their hand if you don't have things documented. So in documentation, a Word doc, whatever it might be, a PowerPoint, a recording. I mean, I think giving people different ways to learn the processes, to learn how to use Eloqua is a great way to go about it, because not everybody learns well by reading. Some people need to see it multiple times. So I like to watch recordings or attend things live if I can. People have their different learning methodologies or ways that they learn best. So with Eloqua, I'm just hitting on this. The next big tip is you can't do omni-channel with Eloqua alone or any other marketing automation platform. Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Adobe Campaign, Marketo, Pardot, HubSpot, all of those added together, if they were one big ass platform, they wouldn't do omni-channel marketing. Here's why. And Eloqua is similar to those other marketing automation platforms I just mentioned. Eloqua can, as we all know, Eloqua can send emails out. Check. Eloqua's got that box checked. Eloqua can now do SMS, text messaging, as of this year, or if you were in like the beta testing, controlled availability last fall. So that's new to Eloqua. And Marketo can do it. Some other platforms can do it. Some of them still can't. HubSpot, you cannot. You got to do a third-party app. But anyway, cool. We can send text messages to people, but Eloqua cannot do all mobile. Mobile also includes like automated voice messages. If you have an app, an in-app notification to the person that has the app on their phone or their device. Then there is MMS is a little bit different than SMS. MMS, think of it like the text messages that we get with a GIF in it. That have video that can play in it. So more modern text messaging in a way. Website, Eloqua can track website visitors, but Eloqua is not a content management system. It's not a CMS. It's not a WordPress. It's not a Sitecore or a Sitefinity. It's not meant to replace the CMS systems. Oracle has a CMS they can sell you, Oracle Content. A lot of other people do too, and I just named some other ones, WordPress. But so I just kind of wanted to hit on like, yes, Eloqua can do tracking of website visitors. For events and webinars, Eloqua can be used for inviting people to those, for follow-up communication, just like we're doing for this meeting today. It cannot take people's payment for registering for an event. You have to use a third party with Eloqua to do that. Social. Eloqua does have some social capabilities for sharing content, like on a landing page. Social sign-in, so people, the theory with social sign-in, at least when it came out and it was really cool like 5 or so years ago, was give me the button on when you have a page with a form, give me a button that I can click and use my LinkedIn information, for example, to fill in the rest of your form, or most of it anyway. So I don't have to go in and type in my information. Well, that worked for a while, and then people were like, you know, again, this depends on your audience, but what we've seen is most people don't use that button because they don't want you to have their LinkedIn profile information behind what you can see on LinkedIn. So anyways, Eloqua can do some social. It is not meant to replace a social media management platform like Octopost and Hootsuite and others. It can integrate with those. There's apps to do that. So to the right-hand side here, what I'm trying to show is for the other common marketing channels people want to include in their multi-channel and eventually their omni-channel marketing, there's more that you can do, of course, and I'm just listing some of those things out, and I'm mentioning these are the specific things, these are the channels where you have to use an app on top of Eloqua or a completely separate platform. So for example, Eloqua doesn't have any capability or feature in it to improve the SEO, the search engine optimization of your website. There's nothing in Eloqua to do that. Some marketing automation platforms have some of that. Eloqua doesn't. And e-commerce, Eloqua doesn't have an online shop capability to it like a Shopify or a Magento or Oracle Commerce. Those are platforms, those are beasts of platforms themselves that can integrate with Eloqua. Eloqua doesn't have a chatbot functionality like Drift, for example. And I'm not going to go through the whole list here, but you can see that Eloqua can only do so much. It can do a lot, but it can only do so much for multi-channel marketing, better yet, omni-channel marketing. But the good news is because Eloqua has about 270, I think something apps right now, third-party apps that Oracle has blessed, like approved. These are authorized by Oracle to use with Eloqua as safe applications. Oracle doesn't let any of the they vet every application that shows up on the Oracle App Cloud Marketplace, which let me pull it up really quickly. So when you go to the App Store for Eloqua, all of the apps that show up here are certified by Oracle. Not all the other marketing automation platforms do this. Like for years, Marketo had 500 plus apps you could use with Marketo, but Marketo or Adobe didn't certify and make sure they were all safe. They've now changed that. Now there's like 50 certified Adobe apps for Marketo. It's way less because Adobe was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We got to make sure that these third-party applications that are connecting to our Marketo platform are safe for our customers. So with Eloqua, for instance, if you just filter here, you can search for applications to add on to Eloqua. You can see, scroll down, there's 269 total apps we can use for Eloqua. So if I just ever want to come in here, if you guys haven't ever been here, you can search by categories, like what are the ABM related apps I can use with Eloqua, and there's 6 of them. We see people use 6 Sense a lot, and you can dig into it to learn more about what the app does with Eloqua. Some of these vendors do a better job than others. Some of them you come to this page and you're like, I don't get it. What does it actually do with Eloqua? I know what the company does now, but or kind of. But usually when you scroll down, you can see videos of sometimes of exactly what their app is doing with Eloqua. And then the documentation typically is what I look at. Like this is actually what tells me specifically what 6 Sense does with Eloqua. That gives me the doo-doo on the details there. So let me come back here. So when you think about multi-channel, omni-channel, and Eloqua, what it can do, where I've broken out the channels here in the different colors, and I'm giving you examples of where Eloqua can have an app added to it or integrate in some way with another application, so you can get toward multi-channel and then omni-channel marketing. Direct mail. There is definitely a place for direct mail. I don't know about faxing anymore. If anybody still knows what a facsimile transmission is, a fax. That was a thing when I worked at Under Armour. It was actually one of the main ways we received orders from the mom and pop stores. I'm sure they don't do that anymore, but direct mail, people thought of it kind of like faxing. In the marketing world, it was like, direct mail is gone. People don't want to receive postcards or magazines. I mean, that's a little bit different, but or gifts from us. And I would debate that. But direct mail is also an expensive channel. It can be. If you're sending gifts, for example, if you're automating a step in a campaign, like a new customer welcome series, and maybe an email goes out, and then maybe a week later you have it directed to PFL to send them a gift. maybe every new customer gets sent a gift. Well, first of all, make sure your data is there, right? Like you have their address, you have where that should go, whether it's to an office or to a home address, which by the way, most people don't want to give you their home address to get a box of donuts. I mean, salespeople tend to do that. But anyway, marketing people try to do some of that stuff too. So little tip there, if you're going to do direct mail, just be cautious of somebody, maybe not wanting to give out their home address to get whatever gift you want to send them. But for direct mail, what I'm trying to show here is you can do direct mail with Eloqua, not out of the box or natively, but you can use an application like 2Print or PFL, and in your Eloqua campaign canvas, at a specific step, say, I want Eloqua to trigger PFL to send Carmen a box of donuts, maybe. And then like social.
Yay, donuts.
I love donuts. Social is something where most of the marketing automation platforms, they don't do mass social listening like Hootsuite and Octopost do. Like you can type in keywords into Octopost that you want to listen out in the different social platforms for people to, like, say your company name, Sojourn Solutions, or talk about marketing automation, or Eloqua is a keyword we would use, Marketo, etc. And Eloqua doesn't do that, right? But Eloqua can integrate with Hootsuite and Octopost. So if they see that your customers are talking a lot about your company and talking how great about how a product is, like they're saying this product of Progress Softwares is awesome. I mean, that's good for one to know. And then also to push that to Eloqua, because if you have a customer advocate program, you might have an advocate that you want to automatically reach out to and have a process there. Now, that's pretty advanced marketing. We don't see a ton of our customers doing advocate communications or marketing, but it's, again, crawl, walk, run, fly. But anyway, sometimes it's for the negative stuff too. Like you do mass social listening to listen for when people are commenting on posts negatively about your brand, not just what you are posting. Like Sojourn has a LinkedIn profile, we have Twitter, etc. We're not just listening for when somebody comments and says something like, hey, that KP Eloqua user group sucked last month, blah, blah, blah. We listen for that, of course, but somebody might post their own LinkedIn post and say, that KP was weird, I didn't like it, don't go to her user group meetings. Hopefully nobody does that. But my point is, you mass listen to what people are saying on the social channels where hopefully you know that your customers and prospects predominantly are, and that information can pass to Eloqua for scoring, personalization, segmentation, etc. Those are the main reasons. So I'm not going to go around this whole little circle here, but what I'm just trying to show you guys is Eloqua can't do it alone. Eloqua does need apps to do multi-channel and then eventually omni-channel. Omni-channel, the big thing there is you honor where people tell you they prefer to be communicated, and you optimize each channel. So it's not like your emails are the only channel that look really good. Your text messages, the way you speak to people, it's timely, it coincides, it's like a good experience along the way with what the last email was. If they just got an email about a product and they clicked through it and they filled out a request to demo form, you don't send them another communication wherever about a totally not related product and disrupt where they're showing you interest in their product and want to see a demo. You can distract people, and we all are these days distracted, I think, faster than a goldfish, something like that. So that's why omni-channel is so hard, because you have to have a couple of technologies connected together to know that KP just clicked on through our email about product A, she wants to see a demo. That means our campaign that wants to send her a communication about an event might need to hold. It's about a totally different product if it's an event about something separate. Like, you got to really think those things through and have the different technologies talk to each other. It's not easy, but it's possible. So with that, and continuing with the Stranger Things theme, which this is a short scene from it, want to stop and see if there are any questions. I know we only have 9 minutes left, but if you have any questions about what Carmen or I have shared today or anything Eloqua related, please let us know. I don't see anything yet in the Q&A or chat. And no, I'm going to follow up with you guys later today with this recording. You can reach out to me anytime with any questions or tips, or if you want to present, that would be awesome. We're always looking for presenters for our Eloqua user group meetings. I think I'll give it another minute. If you like the 1980s, I think you might like Stranger Things. I mean, that was my big draw to it. I was born in 1981 and grew up in the 80s riding my bike around and listening to music some of the time. And this show reminded me of that, but not everybody grew up in the 80s or cares about what I just said. So, all right. Well, we don't have to take up the time to take up the time. Our next Eloqua user group meeting, it's always the third Thursday of the month at 11 Eastern, translated to your time zone, 10 o'clock Central for me. So we'll get together again. We have a couple of topics lined up already for that. So like I mentioned earlier, Tamina from the Oracle Eloqua product team is going to give us the highlights of the newest Eloqua release 22C, which will start coming out like a week after this Eloqua user group meeting. And then the other topic is a Sojourn consultant. It's going to give you guys the skinny on Eloqua's closed loop reporting. Like, what is it? When to use it? What does it not do? What are some cautions of using it? And help you to understand some of Eloqua's revenue reporting capabilities and where they hit a wall. All these technologies have their limits, right? They can't do everything. Sometimes we get sold or believe they can. And it's helpful, I think, to have honest people like us at Sojourn that'll be like, it's great here until this point, and then you need a marketing analytics tool that Eloqua doesn't have. So we'll be honest with you about that always. And if you're ever unsure in evaluating technologies, just let us know. I don't know all of them, but with 90 people now here at Sojourn, we have a lot of experience that we can tap into, so I can typically get whatever questions you have answered and let you know when we can't answer it. So with that, if you have any feedback on how this meeting could be run better, let me know. If you have any topic ideas, even if you don't want to present them, that's cool. Just let me know. Just reply to my emails I send to you guys. If you want to present, please let me know. That's the hardest thing for me is the topic creation for this user group meeting and people to present those topics. So I'm always open to your ideas, and then try to honor them. Speaking of which, honoring things. I know like somebody last year, I think it was like December, they asked for contact washing machine tips, and it took a few months before I could find somebody who could actually do it with their availability and knowledge. So I was a bit delayed in getting him that topic, but did get it eventually. So just know I do my best for you guys to get the topics covered here that you want. So anyway, all right, I think we are good for today. So thank you all for joining. I appreciate taking the time, and hope everybody has a great rest of your Thursday and a nice weekend.
Thank you, KP.
Yeah, you're
Thanks,
welcome.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.